with an entirely revamped organized play circuit. Dude, check out how awesome these playmats are, as well as an English exclusive multiplayer product dropping later this year. 2024 is shaping up to be the perfect time to start playing Shadowverse Evolve. In this video, we're going to go over all of the ways that you can start playing one of Japan's most popular trading card games. Let's do it. What this video isn't, is it's not a how to play video. In fact, if you would like to watch a how to play video, I would highly recommend checking out the official how to play Shadowverse Evolve video over on the official Shadowverse Evolve YouTube channel. I will have a link in the description here down below. It's just really cute, has really high production quality. The voice acting is really good. I think a lot of folks will recognize the voice actors if you're familiar with Cygame's other stuff, like the digital Shadowverse, for example. So I just recommend checking that out. It's pretty quick to watch, and it'll give you the basics on how to play Shadowverse Evolve. And that actually leads us to my very first suggestion, and it's exactly where you would think: the starter decks. The starter decks for Shadowverse Evolve are some of the best on the market for teaching someone how to play a game, but while also giving you some good value. There are cards in the Shadowverse Evolve starter decks that come in full playsets, mind you, that are cards that are tournament staples. They are very powerful cards that actually appeared at the World Finals of Shadowverse Evolve this year in Tokyo. I should know, I was there doing casting and coverage, and yeah, we saw multiple starter deck cards appear in World's Finals decks. So the starter decks are a great way to start. They will help you learn the game. They're very well balanced against each other, and then when you're ready to upgrade the decks, move on to more competitive decks, you'll still have some cards that you can take with you into those competitive decks. So yes, these starter decks are my #1 way to start playing Shadowverse Evolve in 2024. We have some other stuff to talk about as well. We're going to get to a new potential starter deck product in just a little bit. But I imagine most people's next question is, hey, so I've got the starter decks. Where do I go from there? What set should I buy? All right, so there are currently 4 booster sets out for Shadowverse Evolve, with many more dropping this year. And, you know, with this many sets out, you might be asking yourself, well, which is the best one to start with? Which one has the best cards? And, well, I think the answer is fairly easy, at least in my recommendation. I highly recommend you start with the first Shadowverse Evolve set, Advent of Genesis. There are so many great staple cards in this set that you'll be using throughout your Shadowverse Evolve career. You have Bellringer, ding dong, as well as stuff like Forte, you have Merlin, Jeanne d'Arc. There's so many great cards in this set, so this is what I would recommend starting out, picking up some boxes or singles of Advent of Genesis Set 1. And then after that, you can basically supplement your decks based on what you kind of want to do. So, for example, I am a big fan of Set 2. There are probably like less on average, you know, tournament staples than Set 1 here, but Set 2 still has some really good stuff, including one of my favorite cards of all time, Dark Angel Olivia. Of course, it also has some other staples you'll see, you know, showing up throughout decks. You have Tia, Albert, and Daria, who's another one of my favorite characters. So yes, don't sleep on Set 2. I think it is still pretty solid. Set 3, Flame of Levitin, is the newest set at the time of this recording. And this one is good to pick up if you want to play specific archetypes. If you like the new Alice Fabled archetype, this is an incredible set for that, as well as stuff like the Chess Rune, the Heroic Sword. So this set will, in particular, you know, help supplement those archetypes. The card Alice, Wonderland Explorer, from this set is just really good and will continue to be good throughout Shadowverse. So this was not a bad one to pick up either. And then we have the collaboration set, and that is, of course, the Uma Musume Pretty Derby. Now, this is more or less like a contained set. You can make a deck using only Uma Musume cards, and it doesn't matter what class they are. As long as they're all Uma Musume cards, well, then you can make a deck. And this is the set where you get the Uma Musume cards. However, I do want to mention that there are cards in this set that are really good in other decks as well, and will be staples going forward. You have stuff like Silent Suzuka, amazing Forest Craft card. Agnes Tachyon here is a Runecraft staple. Even Tokai Teo on the top is really good in Swords. So there are cards in the Uma set that are just really good for other crafts as well. But, you know, if you're not super into the Uma Musume, buying singles might be the way to go instead of just buying boxes of this set. But there are like expensive cards, like Agnes Tachyon here is a kind of a spendy card. And that brings us to the upcoming multiplayer format set Glory Finder. This is a box set product that comes with 4 pre-constructed decks designed exclusively for the multiplayer format Glory Finder. We don't know a ton about it other than we'll have some unique cards designed specifically for this format, as well as maybe some reprints and other stuff like that. This could be a really, really great way to get into Shadowverse Evolve, especially if you are one of those players who just plays multiplayer games. Maybe you play a lot of Commander or something like that. This would be a great way to get into that. Like I said, we don't know too much about it, but I will definitely be covering it here on Red Zone Rogue. Personally, I'm super, super excited for it. I do also want to mention that they have specifically stated that the cards designed specifically for the Glory Finder format are not eligible in your normal tournaments and that kind of stuff, so keep that in mind. This isn't going to specifically power creep, you know, your normal tournaments and constructed formats, but what it will do is it will provide some cool avenues to play multiplayer, which is great. And so one of the final questions I know a lot of folks are gonna ask is, what class should I play then? And honestly, the answer is whatever one you like. All of the classes in Shadowverse Evolve are viable. We saw representation for every single class at the World Finals, even though some had a lot more representation than other, but still, some people chose to bring, you know, Abysscraft or Runecraft, some underrepresented decks currently, to the World Finals. And that's gonna change going forward. I saw some meta reports of the Japanese meta, and it was just like even across the board. It was like a pie chart, and all of the pie pieces were like equal size. So just play whatever craft you like the most. I do have a full, well, several videos actually going over multiple decks at the same time. I have my 7-deck speedrun as well as my 9-deck deep dive. The 9-deck deep dive is the most current one at the time of this recording, and I go over 9 decks. Most of them are like competitive meta decks, but there's some fun like janky rogue decks in there as well. So, you know, go ahead and check that out. I will have a link in the description as well to that if you would like to see 9 Shadowverse decks and, you know, a little bit of information on how they are played. I also have the starter deck opening and review video that I did several months back. I've already probably put a little thing up for it when I was talking about the starter decks, but I open up all the starter decks and we talk about the crafts and talk about their play styles and all of that kind of stuff. You know, so if you wanted to check out what comes in the starter decks as well as get a rough idea of what the classes are and what they do, check out that video as well. Now, before you go, I have 3 more tips for you that I think are going to be very, very useful. One that I'm always surprised people don't know about. That is the official Shadowverse Evolve companion app. I use a Android phone, so I get it from the Google Play Store, but I'm sure you can get it at, you know, other places as well. And basically what it is, it's an app that does all of the fiddly stuff for you, right? Keeps track of life totals, keeps track of play points, and you can scan in your leader if you have like a cool fancy leader, one that's not upside down like I just pulled from the side of the screen that I'm not gonna re-record. We're gonna leave that in. So yes, so here is one of my favorite leaders, like I mentioned before, the Dimensional Witch Daria, and you can go to scan card, and then you take your leader and you scan it in.
Nature has laws?
Yeah, and then you just pick what your opponent's playing. So we're gonna say they are Dragoncraft, and then we're gonna hit
With a bang and a bounce!
start game. Yeah, and then you keep track of life totals and play points and all of that good stuff. This is insanely useful. It is so well done and polished. It's so useful. Highly, highly recommended. And the second thing is get yourself a bunch of dice. So the app will take care of most things. You will still need some dice to keep track of counters and health totals of your units, right? So get some dice. I would recommend getting 3 different color dice. I like blue, red, and black. Black for counters, and then blue and red for health and attack. And then you're all good. You're all set to play some Shadowverse Evolve. The very final tip is just, hey, what other videos, what other content creators should you be watching for Shadowverse Evolve? And I have a suggestion for the two most obvious ones out there, and those are the two official Shadowverse Evolve English ambassadors. We have good friend of mine and fellow co-caster for Shadowverse Evolve Worlds, Ignideus. He mostly does Shadowverse digital stuff, but he's branching out into physical card games this year, and he's been, he's been the Shadowverse Evolve English ambassador ever since the start, alongside Different Fight here. And, you know, Different Fight is mostly known for Cardfight Vanguard, but he's a huge Shadowverse Evolve fan, and both of these dudes put out great content. Of course, some of that being for Shadowverse Evolve. And of course, that brings you to me. Hey, maybe if you aren't subscribed, maybe consider subscribing now. I'm going to be covering Shadowverse Evolve, you know, more frequently as one of my main games here on Red Zone Rogue. Absolutely huge fan of the game. I just want more people to play. It's so good. There is a reason why it has 2,000 player events in Japan. I'm so stoked for their new organized play season here in the United States, here for the English version in the West, not just in the United States, but, you know, everywhere where Shadowverse Evolve English is played. We have the new Grand Showdowns. We have the Bushiroad Championship Series. We have Springfest. We have all this awesome stuff for Shadowverse Evolve in the pipelines. I'm so stoked for it. And it's a game that's so good. It deserves to be as big as it is in Japan. So, hey, let's grow Shadowverse Evolve to be the biggest game it can possibly be. And hey, I hope this video was helpful to you to get into the game. Of course, we're going to have a lot more content on Red Zone Rogue. As mentioned, we have gameplay, we'll have deck techs, we'll have, you know, topics and tips and discussion videos and all that kind of good stuff that goes into card game content creation. So stay tuned for more of that. And thank you for watching. I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you next time for some more Shadowverse Evolve content. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.